What's up, everyone? Welcome back to a new video. As you can see in the title, my new video will be my new college football playoff rankings. I will be doing just my top 10 rankings, but let's get started. Let's start with the teams that just missed. I have Oregon just missing out because they took a tough loss against Washington, and then I have Washington missing out just because they have 2 losses and they lost to teams they shouldn't have. Then I have Clemson just missing out. I just don't think they're a top 10 team. And if it was another ACC team with 1 loss, they won't be top 10. And then another ACC team with North Carolina, I just don't think they're a top 10 team, so I have them missing out on my top 10. But I think they're good teams, just not top 10 teams. But I'm going to start with number 10. I have Penn State. Penn State has looked exceptional all year. The only games they lost was Ohio State and Michigan, and both those teams are top 4. So it's kind of what you expected. I mean, they played Ohio State really good for 3.5 quarters. I can't really defend them with the Michigan game because they got dominated. But I'm not going to hold those losses too bad against Penn State because the teams I have behind them probably would lose. And even some teams in front of them might even be losing to Michigan and Ohio State. But Penn State all around, defensively and offensively, they're doing really good. They're coming off a 30-point win against Maryland. Singleton had himself a day. But Penn State is number 10 for me right now. As you can see below, that's where the playoff pool has a team, and then the top one's mine. But at number 9, I have LSU. LSU is overrated. I mean, I get that they beat Bama, but man, they just struggled against Arkansas. You can say weather's an issue, but at the same time, if you're the top 10 team in the nation, you should just be beating teams like Arkansas. They have Clemson at 9, but I don't agree with that. I don't think they're ranked. Not ranked, but in the top 10. But LSU, I'm tired of hearing this narrative to where they're going to be in the playoff. They can win the SEC. They're not making the playoff. They have 2 losses, and that they're just not as good as people think. A close game to Arkansas kind of proves that. They play UAB this week, and they play at Texas A&M, so you expect them to win out. But I cannot wait for Georgia just to go out and destroy them because that's exactly what is going to happen. LSU is not that good of a team that people think they are. They are not a playoff team. They are a top 15 team in my opinion, but they are no playoff team. Number 8 in the playoff pool, they have Alabama, but number 8 for me, this is where I have the USC Trojans. They sit at 9-1 and coming off a good win against Colorado. Defensively is where I'm holding this team not accountable. They're not good defensively at all. They don't really have any playmakers on that defense to where they can get stops and consistent stops against these good teams. Offensively, they are outstanding with Caleb Williams. They cannot get the offense is rolling, but they have struggled a little bit without Addison. And I feel like if they played a top defense, they're going to struggle. And if they play a team with a semi-mid offense and a great defense, they're going to struggle in that game. USC is probably the favorite to win the Pac-12 now, and if they do, credit to them. But in my opinion right now, USC cannot be top 5 with the defense they have. Now, number 7 for me, I think it's Utah. Utah did beat USC head-to-head. I've told you before, I'm not going to discredit that loss against Florida. Anthony Richardson just had to have himself one of the greatest games ever just to beat them. And then the other loss, UCLA did beat Utah. That was a bad loss for Utah. But these past couple of weeks, I feel like Utah has just looked outstanding. I think Utah is going to be winning the Pac-12 this year. They play Oregon this week, and if they win that game, I feel like they're locked in for the Pac-12 championship. Playoff is USC at 7. I'm fine with them having them at 7. But Utah is going to be sitting at number 7 for me just because they've been playing these past couple of weeks and that they got the win over USC. At number 6 in the AP pool, they have LSU, not AP, but playoff pool. At number 6 for me, this is where I have Alabama Crimson Tide. If they played 10 times, Alabama and LSU, Alabama wins 9 of them. I don't care that Alabama has 2 losses. So does LSU. I get LSU did beat Alabama, but I feel like Alabama's just a better team all around. And if they put on a neutral site or Alabama would win by double digits. I'm ranking the best teams, and I feel like the best teams, Alabama is number 6. And they're coming off a good win against Ole Miss. They were down half that game. And if they lost that game, man, it would have been the downfall of Nick Saban. But I feel like Alabama is just still a team that can win. They can't win the playoff no more because of their situation, because LSU just clinched the SEC West. But in my eyes, Alabama is a top 6 team, and if they played LSU again, they would beat them head to head. Number 5 for me is Tennessee, and the playoff pool has that too. Their loss against Georgia is the reason they moved down. Last week I had them at 4, but since TCU got a win over Texas, I did have TCU jump them. At the end of the year, Michigan and Ohio State play each other. Unless that game ends as a 1-point game, Tennessee will be in the playoff. But for now, I have them sitting at number 5. They struggled early against Missouri, but they end up pulling it out and getting a pretty big win. So I like Tennessee at 5. I like this Tennessee team, and I won't be shocked if they even win the championship this year. At number 4, for the first time in my rankings, I have TCU Horned Frogs. I told you last week if they did good against Texas, they would be in my top 4. And that defense stepped up for TCU, man. Offensively, they didn't look as good, but at the same time, they went on the road to Texas, played better than what Alabama did there, and they went on the road and they beat Texas. That is exactly what they needed to do, and they did it. TCU reminds me of Michigan last year. No one expects them to do this, and they went out and they got the job done. They play at Baylor this week. That is a must-win game. If they win that, their automatic bid in the Big 12 championship, they'll be playing Kansas State or Texas more than likely. And this team could easily go undefeated and win the Big 12. And if they do that, they're a playoff lock. On the other hand, if they lose one game, I feel like just because how good the other teams are, they're out. But right now, they're sitting at 10-0. Just got another win, a ranked win at Texas. I like what I'm seeing from this team. Don't disappoint me, TCU. I believe in you guys. And I got you at number 4 ahead of Tennessee in my rankings. At number 3 in the playoff pool, they have Michigan. At number 3 for me, I have Ohio State. So 2 and 3 is Michigan, Ohio State in both of our pools. But they're interchangeable at this point. I'm just giving the edge to Michigan because of the way they've dominated the trenches. And when I compare games they play, I compare the big games they play. So they both played Penn State. And realistically, Michigan just dominated the whole game. Well, Penn State dominated half the game, then Ohio State dominated half the game in that game. But in my eyes, this could be either way. All in all, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after, they play each other. And then we're going to decide who's better, I guess. It doesn't help that it's in the shoe for Michigan because I feel like that would be a huge advantage for the Buckeyes. They're looking for revenge, but at the same time, Michigan's looking to stay top of the Big Ten and repeat as the champions. The winner of that game is going to win the Big Ten because the Big Ten West is kind of a joke this year. But right now, they're interchangeable. I like Ohio State's offense more than Michigan's, but I like Michigan's defense more than Ohio State's. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to the game. But for now, Ohio State, they looked really good in the run game against Indiana. I'm not convinced on the run game right now because it is Indiana, and they play Maryland this week. I feel like that's kind of a scare for them because the last time they played Maryland before Michigan, it was like a 55-56 game. This game's at Maryland, and after last week, Maryland getting shut out by Penn State, I feel like Maryland could come out and score Ohio State. But at the same time, Ohio State is the best offense in the nation. I don't get how people don't really see that, I guess. But right now, they are the best offense. The defense, I don't think it's as good as people are saying. It's good, but I don't know if it's good enough to go out and get stops against top offenses. But Ohio State sits at number 3 for me right now. So number 2 in the playoff pool, they have Ohio State. I have Michigan. Michigan is coming off a very solid win against Nebraska. I'm getting a little worried for this Michigan team just because of J.J. McCarthy. The only receiver I trust on Michigan right now is Ronnie Bell. I mean, he gets open right away. They do have other playmakers like Roman Wilson. He hasn't been the same since he's came back from injury, but I do like him. I feel like he's going to end up getting separation in the big games. And then the young stud, Andrew Anthony, he has not been doing very solid this year. And then A.J. Henning, he was never really involved in the pass game, but he hasn't been able to run on these jet sweeps. Other teams are sniffing it out. But the key factor for Michigan on offense right now is Luke Schoonmaker. Luke Schoonmaker has been absolutely exceptional. He's came in for the injured tight end Eric Gall, and he has been exceptional. And him and J.J. McCarthy have a very, very good connection. Now, on the run side of Michigan, they are fitting very well. They ran with 4 running backs last week: Stokes, Gash, Edwards, and Corum. They didn't use Edwards as much in this past game. I'm not sure why. I feel like it's just to kind of keep him like healthy and not sore for the Ohio State game. But Michigan plays Illinois this week. It is a home game. Illinois is on a 3-game losing streak. And I don't know. I feel like Michigan is also on upset alert. These Michigan and Ohio State games, I feel like they both cannot overlook their current game heading into the game. And they just got to get the job done. Last year I said the same thing with Michigan, and they won 59-0 against Maryland. But I don't think that's going to happen this week. Illinois is very physical. And that's one thing I'm worried about Michigan, because if Illinois plays so physical, Michigan is going to be so sore for that Ohio State game. But at the same time, Michigan dominates the trenches on both sides of the ball. So I like Michigan at number 2 right now. But let's get into our number 1, and that's pretty obvious. Georgia's number 1 in my pool and the playoff pool. Georgia has just been dominant. They play great against great teams. And they don't really need to play all that good against these other teams, because as long as they get the win and they get the job done, they're going to stay at number 1. Until a team that's good can compete with them, they're staying at 1. They dominated Tennessee, and they dominated Oregon. They're going to dominate LSU in the SEC championship. Georgia is the clear favorite, and they should be. On the defensive side of the ball, I think Georgia has the 3rd best defense in the nation. In my eyes, statistically, I think they have the 2nd best. But offensively, Brock Bowers, man, is one of the greatest tight ends I've ever seen in college football. He's very exceptional. And then everyone counted him out last year. I did. Stetson Bennett, the mailman, has been playing phenomenal this year. Georgia has looked like the best team. I don't think it's really been as close, but Georgia is the best team in the nation. And until someone beats them, or they win by like 2 or 3 against a mediocre team, they're staying the best team in the nation. They play at Kentucky this week. Kentucky just lost to Vanderbilt. They're about to whoop on Kentucky. Then they play Georgia Tech. That's an easy win. LSU is not beating Georgia. I don't even think they're going to score 17 on them. They won't even score 17 on Georgia. Georgia's going to go out and deliver a whooping to LSU. Georgia is the best team in the nation, and they set at number 1 for me right now. Well, that's it for my top 10, guys. Comment down below your top 4 teams. And then after you comment your top 4 teams, comment your predictions for the top 4 at the end of the season. Because Michigan and Ohio State play, I know that's going to be a big discussion. Does a 1-loss Big Ten team get over a 1-loss Tennessee team? College football is crazy right now, but I'm looking forward to see what you guys think. Comment down below, and I'll see you next time, guys.